All right. Hi, Ken. Hi, Sam. We're here this morning with Sam Simon, actor and playwright of Dementia Man. We're really excited to welcome you here today. Just some brief introductions while we get going. My name is Kiah McConnell. I'm the marketing and program coordinator for the Los Alamos Retired and Senior Organization here. And then this is Ken Hendricks, the community service representative from Home Instead. And of course, Sam Simon from Dementia Man. Ken has worked for Home Instead Senior Care since November 2011. In his role as a community service representative, he works with a variety of local organizations that serve seniors, whether it's taking his guitar to sing nostalgic tunes for local seniors at the Community Senior Center, or working with the Alzheimer's Association to raise awareness and fight for a cure. Ken truly enjoys living out Home Instead's mission, seeking to enhance the lives of seniors and their families. And then Samuel Simon started his career in Washington, D.C. as a lawyer for the Ralph Nader's First Advocacy Group. He then spent 25 years as head of a public affairs firm. In that work, he was often in the news, appearing on Face the Nation, The Phil Donahue Show, Oprah Winfrey Show, Good Morning America, and many more. Sam calls his playwriting and theater work his fourth age. His first play, The Actual Dance, Love's Ultimate Journey Through Breast Cancer, was later turned into an award-winning memoir. In 2021, Sam was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Despite the enormous challenges of this diagnosis, Sam has become Dementia Man, a powerful advocate through theater, using his own experience as inspiration to reshape the narrative surrounding cognitive decline. With his newest play, Dementia Man, An Existential Journey, Sam defies stereotypes and inspires audiences. Sam lives in McLean, Virginia, with his wife, Susan. They have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. Again, welcome, Sam. We're so excited to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to being there in person in not too distant future.
Have you ever been to Los Alamos before, Sam?
You know, I think I have. You know, I'm from El Paso, and I've been to Santa Fe, and I know at least once in the ancient times I've been to Los Alamos.
Santa Fe's beautiful too. That's where I live. I live down in Santa Fe. Yeah, we get more visitors there, I think. But there's still plenty that come here to Los Alamos as well.
Yeah, I think especially after the Oppenheimer film.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Yes.
So we're looking forward to having you for the performance and for all the things that we have planned around that. And so we wanted to ask you a few questions that we think would be interested in building up some excitement around the performance and getting people interested in coming out. So when you give people just a potted introduction to what inspired you to take your journey of being diagnosed and create Dementia Man, what do you tell them?
Well, it's in the play. You'll hear a more theatrical version of this. But I think this will resonate. If anybody is given a diagnosis, the terminal diagnosis of a disease, you know, the first thing you do is ask the question, what next? What do I do? What does this mean to us? And those are difficult times. I mean, the first thing I did is we're very active in our Jewish community, and I let our rabbis know. It's interesting. I haven't told that to other people before, but that is exactly what I did. And then the decision on how to deal with it came from encouragement from my artistic community. As you in your introduction mentioned, I had been performing a play called The Actual Dance, Love's Ultimate Journey Through Breast Cancer. My wife, Susan, who is fine, but when in 2000 got diagnosed with advanced breast cancer, there was a moment when all the doctors went dark, meaning they didn't expect her to survive. And I didn't know how to do that. What is that? I didn't know how to be the love partner. That's the word I've come up with. The person you love most in the world as they take their last breath. And it took me about 9 years to begin to open up, talk about it. I did that through improvisational theater. The lawyer as I was, I've been very fortunate to work with a group around improv. And it enabled me to open up and begin to talk about things. And from there, I came to that play. That and I've been very active in the theatrical world in New York and in other places. And people knew me. And as I revealed my diagnosis, they said, write about it. They encouraged me to take it. You know, it was their encouragement. And I did. I began to do that. And it's been therapeutic for me in many ways. It's given me purpose. And I think that's a really important element when you get this terrible or a diagnosis of a terrible and limited future. There are people, and this play addresses this issue, who think life with this disease is not worth living. And I'll tell you, I ran into that also about the time of my diagnosis. And that energized me a little bit. It makes me angry because I believe, you know, I've come to believe, and I believed even then, that you can live a meaningful life for quite a while as you begin to be, your disease begins to advance. There'll become a time where I need lots and lots of help and maybe need to be in some sort of memory unit. And I'm lucky because I'm progressing slowly, but we'll talk about this. But I identified early and I went and got help early. So whether my disease would have progressed much more rapidly had I not, I don't know. And I know people will hear me and hear us talk and say, oh, he doesn't have it. I'm going on here, but let me assure you, there are 3 confirming diagnoses. I am amyloid positive and I am in a drug trial. So I do have it. And maybe we'll talk a little bit, and the play talks a little bit, dispels the negative stereotypes of what it means to have Alzheimer's disease, a neurodegenerative disease, and I reluctantly use the word dementia, but we'll talk about that. So it was really the encouragement of my artistic community that led me to go ahead and give it a try. And I've been really amazed at how the show speaks to people, and that there is a huge audience. You know, as you know, you guys are in a senior community and senior world. Well, the baby boomer generation, the gigantic baby boomer generation, and their children are all aware of decline in cognitive capacities as people age out, so to speak. And I have been surprised at how interested people are and how fortunate I am to be able to do this. There's a lot of art and theater around this disease, but it's almost all by people, by the caregiving world. So long answer to a quick question.
No, there was a lot there. We appreciate you sharing all that. You said you reluctantly use the word dementia. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, the line in the play is, I'm not crazy, I'm not mad, I'm not insane. And that's what dementia suggests. It is a negative word, it is a degrading word. And part of this whole issue is working and seeing people with these diseases, not just Alzheimer's, with dignity and honor and as human beings. Again, there's a line in the play that I'm going to transform, become someone else, not something else, but someone else. So there will be a point, God willing, that somehow there will be a different Sam inside of me. Don't know what it'll be like, and I've written a poem already, wondering what that Sam will know about this Sam.
You had mentioned that early in your journey, one of your first inclinations was to share the news with your rabbis, and you said you hadn't shared that with anybody else. That it was interesting that you found yourself bringing that up. It made me think about the fact that that's probably a lot of people's first move, is to share news like this with their spiritual leaders looking for direction. Do you feel like spiritual communities is a good a good place to seek to educate folks
Yes.
about this?
a hard yes. You know, of course, it's very personal. You know, as I said, we all, as you, in the introduction, we have 2 adult children as well. So I think I talked to them first and then called the temple, but maybe not. But we've been very active. We're, you know, in our religious community. So it was a natural place. And yes, it is a challenge for spiritual networks. And, you know, even our synagogue just recently, we're very large. We're the largest in Northern Virginia, in the metropolitan Washington, second largest Jewish congregation in the metropolitan Washington area. And we just started a caregiving program with a full-time staff. There's a book out there, which I do recommend, called On Vanishing by the Reverend Lynn Steele. That's not her full name, but it's On Vanishing. She's the minister for older people at, in New York at Riverside Church in New York, a big church. And that's a great book. It does, and it argues that the community is worse off when someone no longer can attend because of their cognitive disabilities, and arguing to those communities to work hard to keep bringing people, let them be there. You know, when I got to, my diagnosis was in 2 stages. First, mild cognitive impairment. That's a neuropsychologist does a test, and it only tells you that you're not normal cognitively compared to people in your age, gender, education, everything. They have got this sophisticated system. But then the question is, why aren't you? And that's can be very hard. And again, I go through that in the play because it's very expensive to get the PET scans with contrast and even the blood tests now to determine what you've got. So it is a struggle to figure all this out. The education part of it, knowing how to interact with people, finding resources. Shouldn't do this, but I might do it anyway. Just yesterday, I talked to folks at the, called the Central Conference of American Rabbis, and talking to them about having one of their meetings of the, every Reform rabbi in America belongs to it. When they have their convention, maybe do this show and have something for them to hear and see and hear this. But it's true for all faiths, and you were exactly right. And it is it's a hard area to deal with for families, for faith leaders, for senior centers. I am going to do my show in September for the Association of Adult Care Giving Organizations. People provide adult caregiving. And I feel very fortunate. Not many people get to hear a guy or a person with the disease talk about it. And there is a little section now, I've added it, that you don't believe I really have it. But let me tell you what happened last week.
Sam, we've gotten to talk about, how you can get support from a spiritual or artistic community. And you touched on how neuropsychology has started to shift how they talk about this disease. Actually, sounds like over a decade ago. And Ken and I were talking before we hopped on here about how I feel like I'm the layperson in this conversation. Like, it's all new to me and I'm excited to learn. But I've just picked up so many words that I didn't even know existed just in the past month as we've been preparing for this event. And I'm curious, how can our medical system, in your mind, be redesigned or restructured to better support people living with cognitive decline, as well as their friends, families, loved ones?
It's a big lift. It's a big lift, honestly. So I'm going to give you some resources. Let me give you one right now. Why? Because I found it yesterday. I've been doing this stuff, the play, almost a year. I've been diagnosed in 2021. But a great resource, alzheimers.gov, no apostrophe. One word, alzheimers.gov. And I've been, I found there a pamphlet that had a phone number. If you call the phone number and put it in your zip code, they will give you automatically the names of some of the resources in your zip code area. How about them apples? And really importantly, they're reliable, trustworthy organizations, often government. There is another half of this world that I consider to be dark. And that's almost it's the way a lot of people try to make money by saying they have miraculous cures. And of course, one of the first things I did was get on Google, right? And there's all of this stuff there. And there's this woman with her husband. I cured him with my soup and it's only $9.95, Not everybody knows not to try that. And I'll be careful because I don't want to get sued. But even as for my blogs and trying to put together a number of resources, I ran across a doctor, a neurologist who has something online. And before I can do anything, I have to give him my credit card. And I didn't do it. And that alone, having community resources to help people, vulnerable people, in the worst of times, not get ripped off. I'll even say, I'm talking about my internist when I first started with him, and he's not treating me because he's not a neurologist, but he had a book by a guy called The End of Alzheimer's. Well, there's not an end to Alzheimer's yet. But this person has a series of clinics all over the country. And, for about 10 grand a year, you can go into his treatment and come out better. Well, I didn't do that either. But remember, it was my internist that gave me that book. It is such a perilous world. So among other things, at senior centers, like there in Los Alamos, having good resources, reliable resources. There is another book, I don't know if you're going to see it, put out, it's called Dementia Self-Management Guidebook. And it's put out by the University of Nevada DEAR program. I happen to be they've had 5 of us, and they've got a medical program there. I'm one of 5 or 6 advisors to it as they put it together. And it really answers a lot of these questions. And it's free online. There's a download for it if you just, but Dementia Self-Management Guidebook. There you can download it and look at it. But I know having somebody local is always very important. So it's a long answer, but the neurology world is one where and you'll see it in the play, our first experience with a neurologist was out of a horror movie. And by the way, I say that, and when I speak and when I do my play in many areas, I just get, oh yeah. That is so frequent an experience. It's hard. I mean, it's hard in everywhere, right? For doctors, they're human beings to deal with people with terminal diseases. I mean, our first neurologist basically said, well, I said, well, what's my future? What should I do? And he said, there's only one road for you, Sam, down, you're just going to get worse. I've got to leave. And then on an afterthought, offered me some medication and treatment.
Your story is really inspiring, how you've approached all of this with such a hopeful curiosity. And I think that that might obscure some of the challenges probably that you encountered as you set off to put together this one-man play, Dementia Man. I was going to ask you, what was the most challenging part of writing this story up to this point and then getting ready to perform it in front of people?
The odd thing, the challenges are almost the daily living challenges as opposed to doing this. I think I was fortunate in having written something once before. It's taken a very odd sort of turn in this story. So people were encouraging me. So I I started writing. It was 15-minute version. I went to it's called the Association of Performing Arts Professionals. It's New York. It is the Trade Association of Theaters in America. And I've done this with my other play, and I have people I work with. So I was able, not as part of their program, but around it, they have, you put up your called previews or showcases. And I did a showcase of about 20 minutes of a play not yet written. I love that. And I was stunned at the response. I could not have imagined the response. And in fact, the theater organization called APAP, Association of Performing Arts Professionals, they have a podcast, and they featured me on one of their podcasts. They were so encouraged by what I was doing. So the energy from others gave me the energy back, and the receptivity. I was fortunate to have an experience of having done this before with another play. So I don't know if I could have done this out of the, if it was a first experience with theater. So I think those were the combinations. It was the bigger challenge. We're going to fly out there. The anxiety around traveling, like we did it before, both my wife and I, but I should take a tranquilizer, and figuring things out that used to be just simple and obvious aren't anymore. And that's the harder things. Folks will hear in the play of some, I do take medication and it helps. And, I don't drive alone. I still drive, but some of the quote symptoms and things that drove me to get tested and find out was driving on the wrong side of the road and not knowing it. That's the point. People will tell you, oh, I've done that too. I've turned on the wrong way, but you do a quick, U-turn and a quick oops. But I keep going until all of a sudden there's honks from every direction. I see cars coming at me. I say, oh no. Now, again, some of the medications help. I don't drive alone like that. And those are the kinds of things. Figuring another one. I had a public affairs company. I used to do all my own financial stuff. I use Quicken, and every Sunday I do my Quicken, just routine without thinking. And they'll tell you once you're diagnosed with a cognitive impairment, you'll look back and see it coming. I look back and I had not put in my Quicken for a year. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know. I just wasn't. I'll get to it. What I didn't know, it had become too hard for me to understand and do. And because I was always going to get to it. And I did that for a year. I mean, people will think that sounds crazy, but it is. It's a neurocognitive disease. And I hear I'm not alone in these kinds of things. No two people go through it exactly alike. And one of the most important things today to tell people, if you think something is not right and going on and you think it's cognition, get checked out. Don't be afraid. I still today, some people in the audience said, well, I don't want to find out. You can't cure it. So what difference will it make? Well, there are two things. One is they can maybe slow it down. That's possible today. They may have accommodations you don't know about yet. But then equally important, you owe it to the rest of the world that maybe there's something about you and your condition that can shorten the time to finding a cure by maybe even one day or even 1 hour. There'll be something that unique about you that will help science in some way. That's why I'm in the drug trial. It's not going to cure me, but who knows? And that's why I get so frustrated at those who feel, and I would say, who feels that being a burden to the family is too great. And there's somebody I knew passed away about 3 months ago, and his obituary was in the paper. He lived in Santa Fe, by the way. He'd moved there, and he had been diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. And he said he died because he went to Switzerland and for accompanied suicide. And he's quoted as saying, I did not want to become such a burden to my family. Well, Susan and I were giving it away. Still come to the play, people. We'll tell you that we believe that being there, surviving, doing this, being in the family, my time with her as we anticipated her, there's a gift in allowing the person you love to give you that kind of care. Doesn't mean it's easy. But if you want to know what love really means, it means being able to do the hardest things and help your person you love go through the hardest thing in life and do it with grace. And that is one of the things we have learned from now having gone through this twice. And maybe, so you know what a bell curve is, right? Everybody is in the center of the bell curve, and the very top is like 90%. There's some small number on one side that don't get to live as long, or the first out. But there's another side of that bell curve. Those who live longer and do better. So my mission is to be the furthest end of that bell curve that lasts longer than anybody has ever lasted before. And maybe long enough that they'll be, I don't know. But I urge people, nobody asks for the bad news in their life. And we'll all face an end of life. And, and for us, and in this journey together, I'm very lucky. We will be married 58 years in August. In the play, I say 57 and about 3/4, maybe. So we feel very privileged by our journey. And this is like, how do you show someone you love when you're married? Well, guarantee you, this is one way. So those are my messages.
That's good stuff, Sam. That's really good.
Sam, something that you said was like no two people are alike. And I think for me, as I'm learning about dementia, that there are maybe patterns to it, but ultimately there's a lot that lives in the realm of we don't know. Like that everyone's individual experience of it is different. The changes that come with it are kind of unpredictable. How do you, I think about and then you also talked about some of the more challenging elements of getting this story out there actually came into like day-to-day activities. So, when I think about my day, a lot of it relies on me being able to get in a car and drive to work, and me being able to cook my own meals and do grocery shopping and pay my bills and all these kind of more mundane things. But with that comes a lot of assumed knowing. Like I assume that I can do those things. So how do you, what's your own personal experience just addressing that I don't know, or the unknown element that I think is maybe more obvious with dementia, but I think really exists in all of our lives?
But it's a hard question to ask. I have sympathy with the people I deal with on the phone and in the number of times you have to call back and confirm to even just little things that just, I'm not sure, I forget. I'm not sure, did I do that? I mean, so, and there are two parts that I want to answer. One about not being able to get out as much, and that's true. And even doing what I'm doing yet, we don't go out to meetings a lot and don't jump to the concert. One of the big challenges is isolation, and that's not good for us. We swore we were going to stay in our house for a long time. And we're now questioning that assumption. We did not expect it. We wanted to stay in forever. And mainly even for us, the isolation that it creates, that you can spend weeks with just us in the house. Maybe you go out to the grocery store, maybe you go out, but do you go to the meetings? Do you go to the parties? Do you, and we try, but they have then the anxiety about it. Are we going to get there on time? Do we know how to get there? Things that never would have bothered us now are big parts of the just thinking about it. So yeah, and I'm lucky with my wife. I'm lucky with my wife. She helps a lot, but that's the other thing here. I was a caregiver. I wrote a play about being the care partner, love partner. Susan had breast cancer, but she was always Susan. I have learned that the care partner role journey in this disease is magnitude of order worse, more difficult than other things. And so there's a lot of attention made to it, as it should be. And I worry about her and I worry about others, and I've seen it. And I don't have great answers for it other than having community and having support and, taking days off. And, in the play, I'll talk about the options we have created. What to do if I get aggressive and violent. You'll see a scene in the play where Susan insisted we talk to a social worker. I didn't understand it. She had become something that I was doing, not consciously, not with intention. She was afraid I might hurt her. Shocked me. Stunned me. So there are a huge number of challenges, and the care partner and caregiver role here is extensive, magnitude of order different. So there is no magic pill for any of it. Supportive community, finding places to go. I'm going to Los Alamos because I think there are a lot of good people there who are going to help me out. Susan and I, every Friday, get on a Zoom with a support group in Las Vegas, Nevada. What? We're here in McLean, Virginia. This is the place we found. There are a lot of good resources in different places. There are also things to watch out for. There's a great program called Reimagining Dementia. It's a global movement that started in Britain, and Reimagining Dementia works in Las Vegas with Cleveland Clinic to do these support groups. And there's one here in DC that's used by someplace that uses it as a marketing tool to get people to come and have lunch with them so they might move into their place. It's hard. It's not the same everywhere. Again, these resources and Alzheimer's.gov is a great one. So is the Dementia Self-Management Guidebook. But and knowing that there are these things out there, that's what I hope this program that you're doing in my work does. It raises awareness. And this isn't, there's still the shame version of this, that they don't want to tell anybody. And people, I've heard it from somebody, a woman at one of our shows said, my husband that was diagnosed and he essentially came home, went in his room and didn't come out. Now, that wasn't totally literally, but he just never socialized again. And that's sad. And I hate to hear it. And I hope just a little bit this one-man show and traveling can help reimagine too. Dementia. And so those are my hopes, and I'm glad, I'm terribly glad. Can I tell a secret about the Los Alamos Senior Center there?
Of course.
Has Jackie Gruninger told about how I met her?
A little bit. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right. I just want people might know. She was at George Washington University and had a professor who I had grown up with in El Paso, Texas, and he referred her to me, and she was I was her first boss. So when she went out of college, and so I love that.
Yes, Sam, after this, I'll actually share with you our June newsletter. Jackie actually wrote a piece about that and how she met you. And
Okay.
I would love to share it with you. I think you'd really like it.
Yeah, send it to me.
But it was so, yeah, just wonderful to see. I mean, over what, like about 3 decades, like the different shifts and the way that you two have known each other in different ways, like for so long, has been, yeah, a really special piece of this for me.
Yeah, and everybody's lives are filled with the unexpected and things that you can never imagine. If you're open to them, I think miracles can happen, but I don't know what the word miracle means. And not only the unexpected, and I think everybody has something to offer. Clearly, you guys do, and all the work you do. I'm so glad you are there. But even people with this disease, maybe I hadn't thought about that before, but maybe one of the messages, take what's happened to us and make the world better with it.
Thank you so much, Sam, for your time today and just sharing your hopes, your imaginings. I'm really looking forward to welcoming you here in Los Alamos in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there, and you too especially. Thank you for doing this.